All right, fantasy football season is here. Today we're going to be doing the quarterbacks for the Don't Eat the Cheese series and the OnlyFans list. Those are going to be cut into separate videos, but we're going to do all the positions this week. You'll see those videos on the YouTube channel momentarily. Of course, this is your host, Trey. We are going to be going through everything that you need to know for this upcoming fantasy season. And I guess, can we put this in like maybe a card on the side, or I don't know how we want to edit this in. But again, you don't have to listen to me. That is totally fine, but you're only hurting yourself because, again, we have fundamental proof that we totally humiliated Matthew Berry last year. Totally humiliated him last year. So again, the head of NBC Sports, who makes millions of dollars, I humiliated him last year on his most confident picks. So again, you don't have to listen to me. That's totally fine. But just know that we're going to humiliate him again this year. And we'll do it again the following year and the following year. So I'm going to share my screen a bunch of times. We're doing the quarterbacks today. All the positions are going to be on the YouTube channel sometime this week or the next week. I didn't want to do them too soon either because the injury bugs, man. I mean, I already lost. We drafted in April. I already lost Rondale Moore. So, the injury bug, you can't really do anything about it. So it's the preseason. One more week to go in the preseason. I don't think anybody's going to, besides some lunatics, will play their starters in the preseason. I'll never get it. But hopefully this is the calm before the storm here. Nobody else is going to go down. Fingers crossed. If somebody else does, don't hold me to it because nothing I can do about it. Anyway, going to share my screen a bunch of times. And first, before I even get started here, I want to just talk about how insane and how I just don't respect this industry. I just don't respect this industry. So if we go to, I'm going to share a bunch of things here coming up. Everybody's fucking list is the same. You'll notice it. One, at the top, you kind of get it. But everybody's got Anthony Richardson QB5. And Richardson is not going to be a player that we talk about on the list. But I want to talk about it because everybody thinks the fucking same. The politics in this industry. Oh, here's another list. Anthony Richardson, QB5. Let's do another one. Let's do another one. This industry is a fucking joke. I don't know how you people even stand this because I can't. Here's another list. ESPN. What do we got? Oh, Richardson, QB5. It's laughable. Let's do another one. Here's yeah, here we go. Hold on. This is Matthew Berry. What's he got? Oh, Richardson, QB5. You people that are in this industry that are getting paid big bucks to do this, you guys have no fucking pride, no fucking self-awareness. Everybody falls into the same bullshit politics. Ooh, what does this guy have? Let me check his list. Let me make sure that I have the exact same thing so that I don't look dumb at the end of the year. It's fucking ridiculous. And again, I can go through each of these lists. like some of these. It's crazy how similar they are. It's crazy. Fantasy Pros and Yahoo, they both have Kirk Cousins as QB17. ESPN and Matthew Berry have Kirk Cousins QB15. The lists are literally the exact same thing, regardless of where you look. And that's where I wanted to start because this industry, they continue to make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And then they wonder why I dominate them. And then they're not willing to talk about why I dominate them because everybody falls into the politics. I get it. I know. Listen, I know. I just want to share this one because I've started following the site now. They're a great read. I don't promote other media companies, but this is just, if you're a fantasy manager, this is the best advice I can give you. Stop following the crowd. Stop listening to all these experts that tell you the exact same thing over and over and over and over and over again. And then when the season ends, none of them are accountable for their actions. This is this right here. They may as well should have just named it fantasy football because everybody in this industry, I mean, they're copycats. They're little fucking losers. They tattletale on each other. What do you have on your list? Let's make sure my list is the exact same thing. Again, this is real. Like, they should have just named this fantasy football. Be brave, think like a contrarian, evolve or die. I mean, that right there is the best advice I can possibly give you. And I've made videos on this in the past. We here at Vendetta, we live by the Chinese farmer. Maybe. If you don't know what the Chinese farmer is, go Google it. It'll save your life. Listen, and again, I'm going to say another one of my mottos. We are more than our thoughts. Our thoughts can be correct. Our thoughts can be incorrect. But I am smart because my thoughts are valid. At the end of the day, stop listening to these fucking idiots that like, they're so afraid to be wrong that they copy each other. And then there's a narrative out there that isn't fucking true because, you know, but it's the thought, you know, that's the thought, and that is what it is. And there's no beating the politics. So as a fantasy football manager, it is your job to beat the politics because they're all going to think the same. They're all going to tell you the exact same thing. It's laughable, but at the same time, I'm not sure I would change it because this is the best way to dominate. Like, if they're going to continue to fall down the road of the politics, I will continue to dominate. So we'll get into it, and we'll start with the cheese list, and then we'll end with the OnlyFans, and then hopefully we can cut these into 2 separate videos. But again, I can't stress this enough. Don't fall into the politics and understand that then is then, is now is now. It's a big difference. Like, the biggest advice I can give you, then is then, now is now. And my biggest secret to why I continue to dominate all of these people is that when you put together your rankings for this year, you got to trick your brain. You got to say, brain, what does the 2025 fantasy rankings look like? I don't have access to that sheet, but you have to try to create it because that is the correct answer for this year. You have to trick your brain. You have to say, Trey, what will these fucking idiot politic people put together on their 2025 list? That's the correct answer for this year. It will always be the correct answer. They will always be a year behind, and I will always continue to dominate them because at the end of the day, they fall into the traffic jam. Anyway, we'll get started here. Let me do this first. So we're going to start with Daniel Jones here. And it's laughable. Like, it's just totally fucking laughable. So here's the Fantasy Pros rankings, and Daniel Jones can be found at QB 25, right? And then we'll show the Yahoo rankings, right? It's so laughable. Like, it's so fucking laughable. And here's Daniel Jones at QB 25, and we'll show the ESPN one. Like, it's so funny. Like, it's so funny how these people just copy each other. Politics. There he is, Daniel Jones, QB 25. It don't fucking matter what list you look at. He's listed as QB 25. I just want to know what makes him the 25th best quarterback in the league because we have no evidence to suggest that's the case. Maybe we could put another card up here somewhere. I don't know. But I just did that video on the Hard Knock stuff. How do you even say it other than the fact that the Giants, they talk themselves into circles, right? But if you really give them truth serum, they don't believe in Daniel Jones. What are the odds? And we have to live in the range of outcomes. What are the odds that he's healthy? What are the odds that he finishes the year as a starting quarterback? And what are the odds that even if he is healthy, he doesn't get benched? Probably 0 for 3. What's the upside here with Daniel Jones? And again, I should have mentioned this at the top. This is for real grown adults who play in 2 quarterback leagues. If you are in a 1 quarterback league, please just exit the video because, again, the things that I'm going to say, you're just not ready for it because you're too much of an amateur to handle it. That's the truth. And then we'll go through Daniel Jones, but I need to stress that this is for 2 quarterback leagues. If you're not playing in a 2 quarterback league, just know you're a noob and nobody takes you seriously. There are 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. The idea that you're only going to use 10 in a week because your league mates aren't educated enough is crazy, but you do you. All right, so last year, Daniel Jones, in 6 games, he threw 2 touchdowns. What makes that QB 25? Even when the fucking guy was healthy, he threw for 15 touchdowns. And again, he might have some rushing upside, right? Where's the rushing? Yep, so look, I mean, this is a total outlier. He had 708 yards, and that was, and again, if you really go back and watch that 2022 season, it was eerily similar. I'll just pull this up. Of the smoke and mirrors Trubisky season when Matt Nagy took over, and he was, I mean, the amount of trick plays that he was calling for Trubisky was fucking insane. Like, again, that 2018 season for Trubisky which was a total fluke. He made the fucking Pro Bowl, which is comical. I had Trubisky as a 6th rounder. That's on the site. We have evidence of it. I know nobody will give me credit for it because they're all jealous, and I understand that. But this 2018 season by Trubisky is going to be the exact same thing as the 2022 season by Daniel Jones, where it was the first-year coach of Matt Nagy, first year for Trubisky. I mean, the amount of trick plays they called that year was... he was just going to run out of plays, which is what happened with Daniel Jones. Brian Daboll, he ran out of plays. Then he got hurt. And again, even when he was healthy, 2-6. I mean, like, how can you rank this guy QB 25 when he's coming off a major injury? His rushing's not going to be the same. Like the only reason why he had some fantasy success was because he ran for 700 yards. When you run for 700 yards, you're gonna have at least some fantasy success. And what was he? Or QB 16, something like that, right? And again, it's going to be proved as a total outlier of a season. When you have this kind of rushing, you're going to be at least competent in terms of fantasy. This isn't happening anymore, especially with the number of lower body injuries that he's had. This, if you extrapolate that, 450 yards we'll give him? That might even be high based on him coming off the major injury. So, and again, it's a double-edged sword with Daniel Jones. The best thing he is like as a dual threat runner. The problem is you don't want to really use him that way because he's been hurt constantly. So, again, like for me, he would be automatic QB 32. Like I don't know how to say that otherwise. If I'm putting my fantasy rankings together, which I will do that when you pay me enough, which, you're only hurting yourself. If it gets to the point where I'm making the money that Matthew Berry is, you'll have my fantasy rankings. But until that time, oh well. But again, if I'm looking through all the quarterbacks, who's he better than? Like let's just start there. Who's he better than? Especially now. Like it would be one thing if he was healthy. Then all right, he's got some rushing upside. I can talk myself into it. QB5. Let's fall into the politics. Who's he better than? Like who are you taking Daniel Jones ahead of in terms of a real starting quarterback? My answer is nobody. I would rank him QB 32 or 31 because I guess Minshew, he'll probably get benched for O'Connell. They'll probably do all that bullshit. So probably QB 31 would be Daniel Jones for me. In everybody else, he's basically, look, in a 12-team league, you basically have to take him as a starting quarterback, which I'm not willing to do. If I'm taking Daniel Jones, it's for a buck or 2 or 3 and not much else, and then he's my third quarterback. That's how I would take it. So I think anybody that's going to rank him QB 25 is out of their fucking minds. And I know QB 25 isn't like super, super high, but holy hell, like let's stop. Like every Giants fan already fucking hates him. there's a strong possibility that Drew Lock starts a couple of these games, and maybe we even see Tommy DeVito, and he sucks. But I think the craziest part about last year is that there was really no gap between Tommy DeVito and Daniel Jones. And Tommy DeVito sucks. Like, if you watch college football, you already knew Tommy DeVito sucked. The fact that there was no gap between when those guys played last year, like, if you just go look at the numbers from last year, Tommy DeVito, I mean, he did the exact same thing. So I'm out on Daniel Jones. He's QB 31 or 32 for me. I think it's laughable that anybody ranks him higher. Let's keep things moving. Let me share it again. Next, for the cheese list. Again, maybe I should further explain what the cheese list means. What the cheese list means is, before your draft, just go in and cross these names off. Like just go in and cross these names off. Like, don't even fucking bother. Like, this is what I do. I go into my draft, and it's a little bit different in an auction league because you don't know how much the prices are going to be, but I had just no interest in spending more than $1 or $2 or $3 for Daniel Jones. Like, and in my league, quarterbacks are super important, but no. Next, and this right here kind of exemplifies everything that I mean. Geno Smith. Now, I was 100% right about Geno Smith, and nobody will give me credit for that, and that's, we know this works. This was a Ryan Fitzpatrick year, as I said last year. If you go and read my cheese post from last year, I said this was the Ryan Fitzpatrick year. This will never happen again. Maybe it'll happen again 3 years from now when he's making $2 million and he comes in as a reliever and he gets hot, right? But this right here is really probably going to be the norm for Geno Smith. Like, it's probably going to be the norm. And if you go to fantasy finishes last year he finished as QB 19. And again, this year they have Geno Smith as QB 22. Right, we'll do it again. Let's show Yahoo. Where does Yahoo have him? They have him as QB 21. Oh wow, you know, politics. Just the politics is just so funny. And then so Fantasy Bros has him as QB 22. Yahoo has him as QB 21. I mean, there's really no difference. You can look at these lists 700 fucking times, and it's the same bullshit over and over. Oh, look at Geno Smith, QB 22. Isn't that weird? And then we'll do Matthew Berry, and he has him as QB 23. So again, regardless of what list you look at, he's QB 21, 22, or 23. I would not rank him there. I would rank him QB probably 25, and that might even be generous. Chad from the site, he paid $37 for Geno Smith this year in our league. I think he's out of his fucking mind. And again, I don't think the ranking on Geno is like super egregious. I would just say that he's not the best quarterback on his own team, so why would I take him there? That would be my concern. Like, if you're a Seattle Seahawks fan, and again, I don't know where Seahawks fans stand on this. I'm just going to say, if I was a fan, they would move on from Geno Smith right now. I would just trade. Like, if Geno Smith has any value, I would trade him. Like, if I can get a second round pick for Geno Smith, that trade would be in the bag right now. I'm not sure that trade's on the table, but again, I just want to go over. Let's go to fantasy finishes last year. Like, let's just go to fantasy finishes last year. So last year, Geno Smith finished as QB 19. He missed 2 games. Sam Howell basically missed 2 games because he got hurt that game, and then he missed that game. He finished as QB 12. That's while playing for Washington, who sucks. Like, at least Geno Smith has DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba and Kenneth Walker out of the backfield, and he has real tackles. Like, he's got Charles Cross and Abraham Luke. Like, he's got real tackles. Hal finished ahead of him by a wide margin. And that's including Eric Bieniemy just totally killing him in the second half of the, like, They couldn't block for the fucking guy. He basically died in the second half of the year, and he still finished way ahead of him. How do you explain that? On a way worse team. How do you explain that? On a way worse team. I just think Sam Howell's the better player. And I think maybe they'll take till November, December. I think there's a real chance Sam Howell just takes over. And if you're going to spend premium resources on Geno, and again, this is in 2 quarterback leagues. Like if you want Geno Smith, you have to pick him as your second quarterback. Like, and maybe you can get away with getting another quarterback. But again, in real fantasy leagues, Chad spent $37 on Geno Smith. If you play in a real fantasy league, that's what it's going to cost you. So, like, I'm not willing to do that. Like, I'm just not willing to do that. And again, I don't think the ranking is super outrageous, but I would be fucking terrified that he's not even the best quarterback on his own team, which I think that's the case. And if that's really the case, you might get screwed here. Like, you might be spending premium resources on Geno Smith, and then maybe it takes 8 weeks, but the last 3 weeks of the year are the most important weeks of the season. Like, if you're actually good at fantasy, you care about the last 5-6 weeks of the year. He might not be available, and it has nothing to do with injury. I just don't think he's the best quarterback in his own team, which, if that's the case, which I think it is, why are we picking him that high? If I'm looking at Geno Smith and I'm doing the rankings, I'm probably ranking him QB 29, QB 30. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Sam Howell's there. And I'm just not willing to go down that road. Like, I don't know how you couldn't be concerned about it. And again, Howell outscored him last year on a way worse team. His numbers are way better. And what has Geno Smith really proved? Other than one fluke Ryan Fitzpatrick out of nowhere season. I mean, we're talking about a guy. If we just go back to 3 years ago, we're like, oh, he's still in the league? Like, he's not out of the league yet? I mean, this guy was revered as a total bust. Like, we remember that, right? Okay. And he's getting older now. So, yeah, I ain't with that. I'm just not with that. How old is he again? Let me look this. Okay, so he's 34 in October, which is I think that's the same age as Russell Wilson, right? Oh, he's 1 year younger than Russell Wilson, which 34 is when Russell Wilson started to tank. Like, okay, all right. If you want to go down the Geno Smith route, knock yourself out. Next. Deshaun Watson. Okay, so I'm going to talk about this as carefully as I can. I love Deshaun Watson coming out of Clemson. Like, you can go and, again, hold me to it. Look up my old articles. They're all available for you to access because Vendetta Sports Media is free to read, unlike those scumbags at the other networks that have a paywall, and I produce better content than them anyway. So I loved Watson coming out of Clemson. I had him ranked better than Mahomes. Like, I had Watson as the number 1 quarterback on that draft that year. It's on record. And maybe if he wasn't a scumbag, that would continue to be the case. But once he got suspended, like, again, he was awesome. He was awesome. But once he got hit with all the sexual assault and the massage therapists, and we don't need to go all the way down that road, but once that shit happened, there's no evidence to suggest that he's, like, good anymore. Like, it just is what it is. Like, we're talking about a guy whose touchdown percentage plummeted, whose completion percentage plummeted. He's constantly hurt now. His body's breaking down. I don't think he takes care of himself. I don't think he gives a fuck. Which, look, maybe if you were the only player in NFL history to have a fully guaranteed contract because the Cleveland Browns gave that to you, maybe he has the right to not give a fuck. I just don't understand like why fantasy managers are treating this guy as if he's only like, he's still all right. He was worse than Flacco last year. Like last year, even when he was healthy, take the injury out of it, which I don't know how you wouldn't be concerned about the injury because he's still like not even fucking on the field, which is crazy. He's not even on the field right now. He hasn't played in a preseason game. He's barely practicing. His shoulder's a real problem. But putting all of that to the side, last year, 6.5 yards per attempt, 7 touchdowns, 4 picks, 1,115 yards. Okay, let's just go to Flacco, who everybody wanted to bury. Everybody said he's got nothing left. 7.9, 13 touchdowns, 1,600 yards in one less game. Like, what are we doing here? like, what are we doing here? Flacco outperformed him. He's not healthy. I don't know. I don't know what you people are thinking. I don't know what you're watching. But how can we have any confidence that this guy has anything left? And again, I guess I'll do this again. I'll show you the politics because they all have him in the exact same fucking spot. Or roughly the same fucking spot. I don't need to show the screenshot. I've showed it enough. Fantasy Pros has him at QB 21. Yahoo has him as QB 22, which is basically the same fucking thing. ESPN has him as QB 19, which is wild. Wild. One spot below Tua. Wow, okay. And Matthew Bear has him as QB 20, one spot below Justin Herbert and one spot ahead of Aaron Rodgers. I'm not doing that. Like, we have no evidence that he's good anymore. We do get that. And again, somebody paid like $40 some in my fantasy league for Watson. I'm not willing to do that. And here's the craziest part. Now that he's been hurt and he's getting injured, the rushing stuff is coming way down. Like, let's show this. The rushing stuff has come way down. Last year, in 6 games, he had 142 rushing yards. I think that's only coming down, especially after the shoulder injury. I don't know. Like, maybe this is the contrarian thought, and you think Watson's coming back. I think he's Maurice Claret. Maurice Claret was great, and then he sat out a whole year. And then he couldn't play anymore. And then we continued to pretend that he could play when he couldn't play. I think this is the same. I think he's basically the Maurice Claret of quarterbacks. Watson, awesome. Great. Awesome. Putting up huge numbers with Houston. Gets in trouble, suspended, sits out a whole year, goes to Cleveland, gets all this money. Why are we gonna continue to pretend that now? Again, I'll share this again. We're not just one season removed. We are 4 seasons removed from the last time he was competent. We're not just 1 season away from maybe he'll turn it around. Maybe he'll turn it around. We got to stop saying he's going to turn it around. At some point, I'm jumping off the ship, and I am jumping off the ship. We are 4 seasons removed. Or 4 seasons, not like one. Maybe he's got something left. He's shown you he's got nothing. Like 38% success rate, career low. I don't know, man. Like, what are we talking about here? And that's not including the injury stuff. Like, can I just pull up a update on the injury update? Can we do that? What's the trying to find like the soonest update. Is there like okay, so look. This upcoming week, he plans to play in the preseason finale. Right? He plans to play in the preseason finale. And again, it's really, he just started fucking practicing. Like, he had a major shoulder injury, like to the point where he couldn't even throw the ball last year. He's kept out. I mean, he's barely practicing. He's played in 12 games the last 2 years. I don't know, man. Like, again, he don't want to fucking play because he doesn't give a fuck. And again, maybe I wouldn't give a shit either if I got that much money, but it is what it is. So if you're willing to take Watson as like a QB 20, QB 21, QB 22, I think you're out of your fucking mind. But again, you don't have to listen to me. That's totally fine. That's your prerogative. But I would just remind you again, once again, I kicked Matthew Berry's ass last year, and it wasn't close. Like, we were like 95% correct. Like, it wasn't close. Like, it would have been one thing if I talked all that shit and then barely beat him, or even lost. We beat the fuck out of him. So again, you don't have to listen to me, but again, we are more than our thoughts. Our thoughts could be correct. Our thoughts could be incorrect. My thoughts are, we have no evidence to suggest he's ever going to be the same player again. And I don't know why that would change the older that he gets. Okay. Next. This one might be the most controversial. Now, the next one will be the most controversial, but that's fine. I've been proven right on the next one, but let's talk about this one first. Kirk Cousins. Okay, so look, last year, 18 touchdowns in 8 games. That's really good. And the last couple of years, he's been very serviceable in terms of fantasy. Like, in the last couple of years, he's been very serviceable in terms of fantasy. I just don't know why we expect that to continue when he's clearly getting a coach downgrade, a weapons downgrade, an offensive line downgrade, and he's coming off of a torn Achilles. I'm not willing to go down this road. I'm just not. Can someone explain to me can someone explain to me why anybody thinks the Falcons are going to be fucking good? Because I don't have an answer for you. Let's just talk about this. Like, to me, this reminds me so much of when the Broncos traded for Russell Wilson, and then when the Falcons traded Matt Ryan to the Colts. Clearly older quarterbacks who are on their last legs coming off, well, Matt Ryan wasn't necessarily coming off like a torn Achilles, right? But, I mean, those guys clearly have nothing left. And we talked ourselves into them being, like, what's the argument for Cousins here other than the new car smell? Got a different jersey on. Like, is that the argument for Cousins? And again, we can pull up the politics. They all have them in the same fucking spot because nobody has the courage to think differently. And the people that do think differently, they all make asses out of themselves. So again, I'll share the screenshot just because it's so funny. Like, it's just so funny. So Fantasy Pros has Cousins as QB 17. We'll do it again. It's just so funny. I would have Cousins, by the way, like QB 25. Like, I don't see that. I'm not taking him ahead of Tua. You're out of your mind. Or ahead of Herbert. But anyway, QB 17. So literally the exact same spot as Fantasy Pros. And then we'll go to ESPN, who has him at QB 15. Wow, I'm taking all these guys right here. 16, 17, 18, 19, or not 19. 16, 17, 18, and 20, and 21, and 23, and maybe even 24 ahead of Cousins. But again, let's just go over the politics first. ESPN has him at QB 25. And then, funny enough, because Matthew Berry came from ESPN and he clearly still follows everything that they do, he also has him as QB 15. So, again, the main 4 ranking systems, they got him in the exact same fucking spot. Let's talk about Cousins and go over everything you need to know. Because the pure numbers on Cousins last year were totally fine. Here's the truth, though. The Falcons, they do not have Justin Jefferson. Like, again, I don't know if people forgot about that, or maybe they're not remembering that Justin Jefferson's really good, but the Falcons don't have Justin Jefferson And not only do the Falcons not have Justin Jefferson, they don't have Jordan Addison either, which is 2 better receivers than anything the Falcons have. And if you want to say that Pitts is better than Hawkinson because Hawkinson's hurt, that's fine. You know, you want to say he's got a better tight end, maybe, sure, okay, I can get on board with that. But let's stop pretending that Drake London is in the same class as Jefferson, because that's laughable. Like, that's laughable. So he's clearly got worse weapons to work with. Not only that, I think the offensive line in Minnesota, where you got Darisaw, is better than anything that the Falcons have. And Matthews is fine, but the Vikings offensive line is better. So, and again, I'd rather have O'Connell. We don't know what Zach Robinson's going to bring to the table. It's his first year on the job. He's got some experience, but he's basically the assistant of the assistant. So I view Cousins as another, like, here's the real question that people should be asking themselves. What quarterback over the age of 35 that changed teams ended up being successful in another spot? It was Favre for like 1 year with the Vikings. It was Peyton Manning for like 1 year, 1.5 years for the Broncos. He was bad in the Super Bowl year. Tom Brady. End of list. Like, do you view Cousins as Brett Favre, Peyton Manning, or Tom Brady? Because that's the end of the list. If you view Cousins in that class, go right ahead. I don't know how you could. And again, you're not getting any rushing. You're getting 0 rushing. And again, this should be mentioned too. He's coming off the torn Achilles, and it's not like it happened week 1 last year. When actually, I should find, when did Cousins tear his Achilles? And I'm not saying he's going to be out. Like, he's going to be on the field. Okay, so he ruptured his Achilles October 29th. So we're less than a year removed from that. Like, it's not like it happened week 1. It happened early-ish in the season, but not week 1. So here's the real question you should be asking themselves. If the Falcons were 1,000% confident in Cousins, would they have taken Penix? I don't think so. They have to be a little nervous about it, right? If they had 0 nerves about Cousins, why would they take Penix? Why would they take Penix if there was nothing to worry about with Cousins? And he's old. We're talking about a guy that's heading into age 36, coming off a torn Achilles. That's going to give you 0 rushing. Like, if we go back to his rushing totals, even before the Achilles, he had 25 rushing yards last year in 8 games. 25. The year before, he had 97 in a full healthy season. 97 rushing yards in a fully healthy season. Like, he's not giving you a dick in terms of rushing. So why would I rank him that high? I'm out on that. Okay, next. And this is the last one for Cheese. Again, last year, this was actually one that I got wrong in terms of fantasy, but I will just bet against it every single year for the rest of my life, and that is piece of shit Rudy Gobert, aka Lamar Jackson. Last year, again, this is my argument against Lamar Jackson. Last year, he was actually healthy. Year before, he missed 4 games, and the year before that, he missed 4 games. He's usually, I would put my money on, he'll probably miss 4 games this year. He's a running quarterback that gets hit a lot and lacks self-awareness. And even last year, when he was healthy, is 24 touchdowns knocking your socks off? Is it? And then the rushing helps. Like, he's picking up yards with the rushing. But again, as I mentioned last year, this guy's gone. This guy's gone. The guy that gave you over 1,000 yards rushing, he's never coming back. The guy that threw 36 touchdowns, he's never coming back. Like, this version of Lamar Jackson, I'm going to say it again. And this part, last year, I was right. He just did enough to finish ahead of where I ranked him. That's the truth. This guy who threw 36 touchdowns, 9% touchdown rate, over 1,000 yards rushing, He's never coming back. You're never going to see that guy again. Get it through your head. Again, you don't have to believe me, but he's never coming back. And as I continue to say over and over and over again, this guy right here that threw for 30, like, he's never doing that again. Even if you get a healthy Lamar, even if you get a productive Lamar, this is the Cam Newton breakout season. You're never getting that back. And this past offseason, like, can we pull like, this guy, like, he's just dumb. Like, I can't stress enough about how dumb he is. Like, hold on. Okay, we got it. Share this one. Like, he literally says, "Oh yeah, I was fat and out of shape." Yeah, I was fat and out of shape, and that's why I'll be better. Okay, buddy. Like, he just lacks self-awareness. Okay, so what is going to happen now is, because he has less weight, he's going to get hurt now. Is that what's going to happen here? And by the way, where's this at? By the way, I mean, last year, look, he came out with an entire gym. He had this gym plan, right? He had this. How can you be fat and have and like, how can you be fat and come out with a gym? How's that even possible? Like, how does anybody even like this guy? How does anybody fucking root for that asshole? Here, and this is the biggest problem I have with Lamar Jackson. Can we please stop pretending that he's Josh Allen? He'll never be Josh Allen. To me, it's a fucking goddamn shame that the Ravens just didn't fire Eric DeCosta and give me the job, just based on the fact that, again, you can go research this. It's all on record. It's all on record. I said the Ravens should have picked Josh Allen. They're living with those consequences because the fucking guy never wins a playoff game. Okay. Josh Allen wins playoff games with a dysfunctional Bills team, and his head coach is Sean McDermott, who can't stop a nosebleed. But, you know, who knows what Allen could have accomplished with the Ravens? We'll never know, unfortunately. And again, I'll show this again. Fantasy Bros, Lamar Jackson, QB4. It's gonna be the same fucking thing every fucking time, right? Here's Yahoo. Lamar Jackson, QB4. Right? Yep, politics. All the politics and the politics. ESPN, where they have him? QB4. Actually, they have the exact same top five. Both lists are literally the same. Both lists, all four lists, identical. QB 1 to 5. Identical. Like, identical lists. Actually, they might be the same. Yeah, all four lists have the exact same top 6. The exact same. The only difference is ESPN has Burrow a little bit higher and Kyler Murray a little bit lower. But 3 of the lists have the exact same top 7. Which tells you everything you need to know. These people have no fucking independent thoughts. None. This has always been my biggest problem with Lamar Jackson. He's Rudy Gobert. He'll never win anything in the playoffs, but that doesn't have anything to do with fantasy. The guy that ran for over 1,000 yards and 35 touchdowns, he's never coming back. He's never coming back. He has no prayer to finish as QB1. There's a 0% chance he finishes as QB1. 0. Unless, like, Mahomes and Allen and, you know, if those guys, like, die, maybe. But let's knock on wood to make sure that doesn't fucking happen. I don't want to be responsible for that. But yeah, I mean, let's be serious about this. He's just not an elite quarterback, and everybody's going to rank him as an elite quarterback. So that is what it is. If I was ranking the fantasy things, I'd probably put him at like QB 12.